Hey everybody, Emily Mayer here, host of Freeze, Hope, Vote, the podcast through the Arena SC, where we focus on all things South Carolina electoral and legislative here in the Palmetto State. We are recording on Sunday, the day after the attempt to potentially assassinate the former sitting president. So the vibe of today's video is going to sit and feel a little bit different than other ones if you've tuned in to previous recordings and interviews. But I couldn't be more thrilled that my guest that was scheduled today is the one that's with me today, because I think he's going to provide us a really unique and important perspective here. So, Clemson, thank you so much for joining us today on Rico Vote.
It's an honor to be with you today. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. And I'll do a little intro on Clemson because I really do want to get into the unique perspective that he brings to this conversation. Clemson is running for House District 33 in the upstate, parts of Spartanburg County, against Travis Moore. The important thing to know about Clemson is that while he is a man of many talents and is one of the most charismatic people I've ever met, he also brings to the table the perspective of a military veteran. And today, as we are reflecting on what took place yesterday in Pennsylvania, I think that's really important. So, Clemson, do you mind giving us a little bit of background on your military experience?
Sure. So I joined the military in 1979. I was an infantry soldier in the South Carolina National Guard for 3.5 years while I was a student at the Citadel. And when I graduated from the Citadel, I was commissioned as a tank officer or as an armor officer. And in that capacity, I served around the world for the next 24 years. During my career, the next 22 years. During my career, I performed a number, I led at a number of different levels, everything from a small unit called a platoon all the way to a battalion. And I had a unique career in that I was either on operations and either operations in Germany at the wall or in Egypt. And then I was selected to be a professor at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. So I was either teaching at West Point or the Naval War College, or I was on the ground doing operations.
Thank you so much for your service. And we know that our troops do what they do because they want to make sure that we have the ability at home to keep our freedoms, whether that's freedom of speech, freedom to bear arms, any of the numerous freedoms that are laid out for us in our Constitution. But because of that, I think what we saw yesterday might have been a little bit more personal or hit closer to home for you because of the sacrifice that you've given for our country. What were your first thoughts and feelings when you heard the news about the attempted assassination on former President Trump?
First, there's absolutely no reason for any type of violence within a democratic process. There are ways that we could always address things that we might disagree with or we might not like. And there are organizations that we can join that will seek to address those challenges in a peaceful way that's within our democratic process. Any type of violence like this undermines that democratic process. And when I heard that that basically the assassination attempt occurred, I was extremely sorrowful for our nation that this is the type of political violence that has been generated by this clash between two ideologies. And that is extremely sad. When I was on operations in either Kosovo on active duty or in Afghanistan and in Iraq in other capacities, one of the things that we would talk to the civilizations there is collaboration, communication, and also working with people you may not like, but people you have to live with is fundamental to democracy. And the fact that we may have lost that lesson or that lesson was lost on the shooter is it's a sad reflection on our nation right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, no matter where you are in life, but even more so on display in the military, you are working alongside of folks who have come from different backgrounds, different lived experience, might hold different ideologies, right? So you have really seen that mutual respect played out in a way that has lent itself to be successful in the mission that you're setting out to do. And I think we have lost sight of that along the way. As somebody who is a gun owner, who has been trained to responsibly care for firearms, what is your concern now? And maybe it wasn't just yet because of yesterday, but because of recent events in our nation about that common sense gun reform that we see folks talking about.
Yeah, it's extremely challenging for me to watch how some laws are being developed in South Carolina and in other states right now. I am a trained rifle coach. I led a rifle team when I was a dean of a military boarding school. I was in charge of the rifle team. I am certified to teach Boy Scouts correct firearm procedures and how to be around firearms. And it's unfortunate that at that time I was never in the NRA because the NRA had an excellent program for training rifle coaches and for gun safety, which was the nature of the NRA at that time. It's sad to see that the NRA has moved away from this, and now I'm a member of what's called the Civilian Marksmanship Program, which is another program trains only rifle safety, that only trains people how to teach other people how to use weapons properly. One of the unfortunate aspects of what's happening now is the gun safety laws within South Carolina are basically, for me, they are, I'm trying to think of the right word. They are not only illogical, but they're just not smart. I'm all for a free, smart, and strong South Carolina, and being smart is about education. And within South Carolina, you can buy a rifle at 18 years old without any training. You don't have to register that rifle, and you can carry that rifle anywhere. So, with the help of some friends, I looked up the rifle laws in Pennsylvania. They are exactly the same. The age of the shooter was 20 years old, and he had access to a rifle that was not registered. And we can see what could happen in that situation. I know that 18-year-olds who are not trained with firearms, who don't respect the firearms, that is a recipe for disaster. And I've seen it. I have walked into ranges where I've seen 18-year-old soldiers doing some really dumb stuff. We would call them stupid soldier tricks. And you'd have to stop. You'd have to have an adult presence. We'd have to go through firearms training, and we would make sure that all those soldiers were retrained the right way. We need to do that with our laws in South Carolina. I'm all for the Second Amendment. I'm a gun owner for gun safety. I am all for the Second Amendment and making sure that people exercise that Second Amendment the right way, that they're trained, and that their firearms are registered. And that's where we need to go in this country, or I fear that we're going to have more incidents like this one.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my first thoughts yesterday as well. I had such a fear of, well, now what? What's next? We're waiting for that other shoe to drop. It's kind of that feeling that's sitting with me. And I certainly hope that I'm wrong about that and that we rise to the occasion.
We hope so. And, we're talking about one event. Okay. There was another event that happened yesterday as well. There was a mass shooting in Birmingham where 4 people were killed. And apparently everybody who was involved in the shooting was under 23 years old.
And that didn't even reach our radar. It wasn't even a
No,
blip on my radar.
no, not at all. And and that is as sad a commentary on our nation as the assassination attempt. Also, we talk a lot about firearms within safety for hunting, safety for target shooting, safety for home defense, that kind of thing. There's a whole other aspect of firearms when we talk about gangs, we talk about drugs, we talk about control of different areas within cities and urban areas. And all these laws do is actually allow greater access to higher, very powerful weapons, automatic weapons, for those people who want to basically control their areas through firearms. And that's a whole nother aspect that I don't feel that lawmakers are paying attention to. And that's something I would definitely pay attention to when I'm elected.
As somebody who has served in a capacity where these automatic weapons are necessary, can you see a reason why on the streets of America, the average everyday American who wants to be a gun-owning citizen deserves to have the right or needs to have the right to have their hands on such powerful machinery?
No. And to be clear, first, like I said, I'm all for the Second Amendment. And what sometimes makes these weapons so powerful, because I can go out and buy a deer rifle that's just a deer rifle that will have a bullet capacity of 4 to 5 bullets, and those bullets could be bigger than the ones that was used in this weapon yesterday. What makes it so powerful is its ability to fire rapidly and the amount of bullets that it can put out. So you can have magazines that will have anywhere between 15 to 30 bullets in the magazine and can fire them very rapidly. We saw this in the mass shooting at Las Vegas, where because of the bullet stock, this person was able to shoot 300 bullets very rapidly and kill over 50 people. Very, very sad and entirely unnecessary. And I have, and again, this is a very personal belief for me, is that if you're hunting and you need more than 2 bullets to shoot a deer or a wild boar, you're a really bad shot. And you really need to go get some training on the range. And we have some great ranges here in South Carolina. I've been to many of them because I shoot target, I shoot skeet, I'll go out and shoot pistols with friends. And that's where you learn to shoot. That's where you learn weapons and firearms safety, weapons and firearms accuracy. And in that way, firearms totally within the Second Amendment, no worries. Do we need weapons like AR-15s on the street? In my personal opinion, no, we do not. Does somebody need to own that for home safety? Believe it or not, it's not a very good home safety weapon. If you want something in your home, if someone attacks you in your home, that you can very quickly you can shoot and put out a broad pattern so that basically you're not trying to aim. It's not a long gun that's called. It's very short. A pistol is much more effective for home safety than any type of AR-15. AR-15 is a military weapon for trained military personnel, and I don't think they need to be on. They need to be on community streets.
Absolutely. And so, as a candidate, you are running to represent an area that people consider to be very conservative. People might
Sure.
say that it's brave of you to be putting yourself out there as a Democrat. Have you ever felt previously unsafe on the campaign trail, and now are you more fearful moving forward as a candidate about your safety on the campaign trail?
It's funny. I don't fear for my personal safety because, quite candidly, it's the way I look. All right. And I've spoken with many people who are not on the Democratic side. And as we have a conversation, and since I'm trained in de escalation, I can usually get someone who's really, really adamant about something to get them into the conversation. My concern is for people who are on my team and people who are members of the campaign team that might be going door to door in some neighborhoods where they feel uncomfortable. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a number of safety lessons to make people feel comfortable. And a part of that is not putting people into situations where they would be uncomfortable. And that's a challenge as well, because we have a wonderful message. We want as many people to hear that message as we can. We want people who normally don't hear that message to hear the message. And that means we might have to go into places that are uncomfortable. And as we go into those places, we want to take every safety precaution we possibly can. And if and make sure that not only have we taken safety precautions, but we got backup precautions as well. I was at a summit yesterday where we were talking about different lessons learned in this situation. And one person I really appreciated their thoughts is that if they were going into an area and it was interesting. It was an African American group that was talking, and they were talking about going into places where they felt uncomfortable. And I think the threat against anyone who doesn't look like me or is my gender is much higher than it is against me. And he's saying we always went with 3 people. 2 people would go up to the house. You never stand in front of the door. You always stand to the side. These were basic things I learned as a military officer and as a security officer in going into different buildings. You never stand in front of the door. But he said there's always someone in the car, and they always have a clear view of the door, and they're filming you the whole time you're up there. And should anything happen, the role of the person in the car is to drive away. And we said, really? Yeah. And he goes, oh, yeah. That way someone survives. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. The fact that we have to have this conversation
Yeah, the fact that you have to have that plan in place while you're going door to door canvassing to inform people about their rights as citizens to get involved in the electoral process, just it breaks my heart that we are at this point in American politics. I shudder to think about how real of a concern that is for so many of our people.
And it truly is. And for people who look like me and that are my gender, where we're very privileged. We're pretty safe anywhere we want to go. If a policeman pulls us over, we're going to pull over immediately and have a conversation with that policeman with probably no great anxiety other than we got caught speeding or whatever. But people who don't look like me and people who aren't my gender and people who might be different genders, they're in a different situation. We need to make sure we create the best environment we can to have the conversations we really want to have so that we can get our message across. That's really what we want to focus on. And once we start doing that, it was fun because in the same meeting where people were talking about different challenges, at the same time, people started talking about the positive aspects of getting out there and having that dialogue. And I've been there as well. There's some, I'm running for a very conservative area, and that's fine. I'm all for conservative values. That's terrific. And you know what? Traditional values are strongest when you can apply them to our modern situation and leverage them to be even stronger and applied in an even more powerful and positive way. And have conversations with people and see them start saying, okay, I didn't see it like that. And actually look at them. If they believe something, you go, well, 3 cheers for you. Okay. I appreciate your support of that. You didn't call me a name. You didn't call other people names. I can understand why you might support this. We'll see things differently. Let's talk about something else while we have a cup of coffee. And one of the things about a free, smart, and strong South Carolina, we're all not going to agree on all three of those things. Usually we'll agree on 2 out of the 3. And so, okay, let's talk about better schools. Let's talk about childcare. Childcare is a winner. Let's talk about childcare. Let's talk about Medicare and why that might be important. And oh, by the way, free for the state. And a lot of it is information. And as you have your facts together and have that dialogue, now you're bringing people together, which really is where we're trying to get in the first place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, all right. If folks want to learn more about Clemson Tea for 33, where can they go to learn more and to give you support?
So there's ClemsonTSC.com. So ClemsonTSouthCarolina.com. And that's my webpage. Also Clemson Tea for 33 on Facebook, Clemson Tea on X, Clemson Tea for 33 on Instagram, Clemson Tea on Threads. Or you can give me a call, and I'm happy to get calls at any time. Love texting at 864-347-8037. And we'd love to have people call and join us and engage in that dialogue. And that's what the team's going to do. Is we're really looking forward to building that conversation across the district, to think that, you know what, there are other options out there. And we want to represent all of the people of the district, not just a certain.
Absolutely. Well, Clemson, thank you so much for joining me today. I was looking forward to this conversation regardless, but even more so given the marriage of the political reality moment that we're in right now. So thank you so much for educating me and shining some light on some pieces of this that maybe I didn't fully understand, and for all you are doing to continue to educate others in your district along the way on the campaign trail. Thank you so much. That was Clemson Turregano. I'm Emily Mayer. This was Breathe Hope Folks interview of the week, and we will talk to you soon.